Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. So first, as you can see, the map has been updated. This shows the recent maneuver activity of the Russian military, both to the west and north of Avdiivka. It would be more of the southwest and northwest of Avdiivka. As we know, the Russians right now are attempting to encircle Avdiivka. They have made some headway. They continue to prosecute their offensive. There continues to be very heavy artillery, the use of fixed-wing assets against Ukrainian targets in the Avdiivka pocket. And as we understand, the Russians are continuing very large-scale offensive operations against Avdiivka. The Ukrainians are putting up stifling resistance. I think at this point, it is possible the Russians had believed that they would have been able to fully encircle Avdiivka with this high-tempo operation. They were not able to do that. One of the factors that we are now seeing on the battlefield is the deployment of the U.S.-made ATACMS. Now, the question is it having a direct result on what's happening in and around Avdiivka? I would say at this point, no. The Ukrainians are reaching out and striking targets well behind the Russian line. So we know over the last 24 hours, the airfield at Bryansk was hit by ATACMS. We can also confirm that an airfield near Luhansk, the city here, this is in the Novorossiya area, was also hit by U.S.-made ATACMS missile systems. So why is this important? Why is the new ATACMS deployment against Russian forces, specifically some of these forward operating air bases, important for the Ukrainians? Well, previously, it has been more difficult for the Ukrainians to hit targets deep inside of Russian-controlled territory, especially the airfield at Berdyansk. They could do it, but not as accurately as what the Ukrainians can do now with the ATACMS. ATACMS has extended range and is incredibly accurate. Now, again, did the Ukrainians possess systems that could reach out at distance? They did. They possessed those systems, but the qualitative edge that the ATACMS brings in terms of precision is just something that the Ukrainians didn't possess. Precision at distance. And that's one of the factors that the ATACMS brings to this conflict. And we expect to see further ATACMS strike, and obviously there has been recent alerts in Kiev. Downtown Kiev has gone on air raid alert for the first time in several weeks, and we suspect that is going to be a retaliatory strike by the Russians against sensitive targets inside of Ukraine for using those Western-made weapon systems. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the M1 Abrams, specifically these M1A2s that are being deployed by the Ukrainian military. And are they tough tanks? Yes, absolutely. Is it possible that the Russians can destroy these tanks? Yes, absolutely. I would say much more difficult in destroying an Abrams on a frontal aspect shot, meaning the front hull or the front turret. Again, very difficult to penetrate that frontal armor. The weakest area, obviously, on an Abrams is the rear portion of the turret. That is where the ammunition is stored. Now, unlike Russian systems, the U.S. has a separate blast compartment for its ammunition. It does have, contrary to popular belief, the Abrams actually does have the capability of storing ammunition inside the hull near the turret ring. We never did that. We ran a test run of a full upload when I was in the military, and we did put rounds in that area. But generally speaking, we never put rounds in the lower hull. It was difficult to do, and it was then difficult to obtain that ammunition, especially in a conflict area, if you're on an op. Now, there's one thing American tankers did that I felt put American tankers in jeopardy. They negated, or they overrode the blast compartment, specifically speaking, the blast door. So let me try and explain this. So if you are a loader in an M1 Abrams and you're sitting in the loader's position, there's a loader seat, and he's going to be looking towards the tank commander. And directly to the left of the loader is the breech of the main gun. To the right of the loader is the blast door, which opens upon applying a knee switch that sits just below the blast door. So you activate the knee switch, the blast door opens, the loader then retrieves the specific round requested by the gunner, heat or sabot. Now, obviously, there are other ammunition now in service which we did not use when I was in the military. Now, I can tell you that when U.S. tank crews go through their gunnery qualification exercises, there was a trick that was used by some tank crews to increase their loading times and their times in which the gunner could engage targets. A lot of what you did during your tank table gunnery exercises was based on time. How quick your loader could load, how quick your gunner could identify targets and engage certain pop-up tank or tank-like vehicles. So what some of these crews would do is essentially cheat. And they would cheat by going into the fuse box of the tank, and they would deactivate the blast door. So they would open the blast door, you keep your knee on it where the blast door remains open, then you pop that fuse switch, and the blast door remains permanently open. Okay, so think about that. So each time you go down on a tank gunnery exercise, you have to hit that blast door, which takes about a second or two to open. Then you retrieve your round, take your foot off, take your knee off the knee switch, and you have to also keep your knee on that knee switch or the blast door will close. So again, they would deactivate that fuse so the blast door would remain open. And the loader did not have to worry about activating the knee switch, and you could get rounds out of that ammo compartment much quicker. But, here's the big but, if your tank is hit in that rear turret area while that blast door is open, well, that whole crew is probably going to die, because the explosive detonation is then going to go into the turret rather than up through the blast panels if that blast door in the turret is open. So just a little tidbit of information back when I was in the military, and I would think at this point the Ukrainians are probably keeping those blast door closed and not deactivating the blast door by hitting that circuit breaker. But they can do it, unless they've changed the design of the tank where you cannot do that. And I'm sure someone will let me know if that has actually occurred. But again, M1A2 tanks are being actively used by the Ukrainians. ATACMS are now being used. Eventually, F-16s will be used by the Ukrainians against the Russians. This has become essentially a all-out war sponsored by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in the United States against the Russian Federation. That's what we're seeing. That's what's happening. Whether you like it or not, that is what is occurring. So this is a lot bigger than just the Russians fighting the Ukrainians, right? The Russians are not only fighting the Ukrainians, they are also fighting the full weight and capabilities of the intelligence organizations of the United States and of the EU and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and also the weapon systems that are being provided by said organizations and nation states. So we're going to continue to watch what's happening in Avdiivka as the Russians continue offensive operations. The Russians are launching offensive operations elsewhere as well. There continues to be fighting in and around Bakhmut. This war is not stopping. It is continuing at a fever-pitch pace. It is only escalating and getting more intense day in and day out. Thank you for joining us. More to come very, very soon. And as always, have a good day.